Now to another story making headlines around the world. This morning, Russia's president ordered a halt to military action in Georgia. Joining us now with more on what this means for the two countries in conflict is Heritage Foundation Senior Fellow Ariel Cohen. I can get it all out this morning. Thanks for joining us, first of all.
Pleasure.
You know, France's President Sarkozy in Georgia right now. What's going to happen, though, we were talking, when he leaves? We know he's there trying to stop the conflict and help things out. But what's going to happen when he leaves the country? Well,
Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said that this is the halt to hostilities. The problem is Dmitry Medvedev is not really in charge. And the man who is in charge, Mr. Putin, is the one who is making the decisions. After Sarkozy leaves, if there's still no ceasefire, no signed agreement, no demarcation lines where the Russian troops are pulling out, then the 64 million ruble question is what happens next. And the Georgian army already showed that it can't really fight. So it'll basically be up to Russia and up to the international community, to the United States, France, Great Britain, Germany, etc., to put pressure on Moscow to stop this carnage.
But will they? Is this something that the U.S. wants to get involved with, needs to get involved with?
I hope and pray, for the sake of the people of Georgia, that the Russians will stop the hostilities. I've been to Georgia many times. I know the people. They're wonderful people. But little Georgia cannot stand up to the Russian bear. Should we get involved? First of all, we should let the Europeans to take the lead. Even if they fail, it'll drive the lesson home in Europe that they need to work more closely with the United States and not to complain against us, as they always do in Iraq and elsewhere. But it's important for everybody. It's important for Europe, it's important for the US, and for other countries, because once Russia reverts to its imperial mode, it's bad for the world. And Russia showed that it's willing to use force to, one, sit on a little neighbor, but two, to strategically change the balance in the Caucasus and choke the artery that supplies oil from the Caspian Basin to the west.
Is there some strategy to why this is happening now, why Russian forces went in?
Absolutely.
What is that?
Number one, the Georgians miscalculated. They went against the separatists with too much force, and the Russians warned them repeatedly. The Russians were planning this operation for years, and I published articles predicting that as early as spring of 2006. Secondly, the Russians were really upset about what we did in Kosovo, what the Europeans did in Kosovo, which is recognition of a little breakaway republic of Kosovo. So the Russians say, oh, you can do it against our best advice, the Russians, so we can do it with our own separatists. We can recognize our separatists in the Caucasus or maybe elsewhere. And finally, they want to send a strong message to the United States and to NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, not to accept Georgia and Ukraine. So they made an example out of Georgia so that Ukraine will not join. In Chinese, it's called kill the chicken to scare the monkey.
So if you do this, this is what will happen.
If you do this, this will happen or worse. And there are other former Soviet republics in that area that are looking at Georgia now and saying, oh my God, we don't want to be in that situation.
Mr. Cohen, thanks so much for adding some insight into this. You also want to mention you have your fourth book coming out, Kazakhstan, The Road to Independence, coming out this fall as well.
That's right.
All right, thanks for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
Steve, Tony.